Here's with his lawyer, Thomas Wilman. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your Honor, there's one thing I'd like to address before we bring in the jury. It should not be a major issue, but I just want to address it now so that we don't potentially have to address it later. And that relates to during Mr. Wilmot's opening statement, he explicitly stated to the jury that the evidence will show beyond a reasonable doubt, in fact, I think he said beyond any doubt, that the defendant is guilty of the count of hiding a corpse, which in essence is a concession of guilt as it relates to that count. We still intend to, and we will, present evidence to support that count to the jury. So I don't believe under the case law that that amounts to, in essence, a guilty plea by the defense to that count without the consent, without the actual participation of the defendant. However, under Florida versus Nixon, which is a U.S. Supreme Court case from 2004, 125 Supreme Court 551, the Supreme Court said that it is not ineffective assistance of counsel to do that so long as there is a discussion of that prior to it happening with the defendant. They did not explicitly say that defendant's consent is required. In Nixon, it was the defendant would just refuse to either say yes or no with his attorney's strategy to do that. And I understand it's a strategic decision. I understand it's likely a strategic decision in this case and probably an appropriate strategic decision. But I just want to address that. I talked to Mr. Wilmot about it. It's my understanding there was discussion with his client. But I would like that confirmed now so that we don't come back later with a mock-up hearing where there might be a dispute as to that.
Mr. Wilmot.
Fair enough. That was discussed at length, that trial strategy, concession of what is count 3, the hiding of the corpse. That discussion was had because of, quite frankly, the unimpeachable evidence in that regard. If the court would like to make a more complete record to briefly query Mr. Torgerson on whether we had that discussion, we had again on multiple occasions, I have no problem or objection to that.
Mr. Torgerson, you did have that discussion with Mr. Wilmot?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it was a thorough enough discussion?
Yeah, you're right, I should add that. It's my belief, based upon countless times and countless hours of meeting with him, that decision by Mr. Torgerson was made voluntarily, knowingly, and intelligently.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you listened to you reviewed the evidence, listened to your legal advice, and made that decision?
Of course, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Then you may bring the jury in. You may be seated. The state may continue.
The state calls Shelly Rush to stand. Just so you know, that microphone does move. We might ask you to speak up a little closer if your voice doesn't carry with it.
Okay.
Could you please state your full name and spell your first and last name for the record?
Shelly Rush, SHELLEYRESCH.
Did you and do you know a person by the name of Stephanie Lowe?
Yes,
And how did you know Stephanie Lowe?
she was my best friend.
And how did you meet her?
I met her through her brother, Daniel.
That would be Daniel Blake.
Yes.
And how did you know Daniel Blake?
Dan and I were in a relationship for 7 years.
And so, in October of 2010, in that time frame before Stephanie disappeared, would you see each other every day, once a week, varied? How would you explain that?
A couple times a week,
And how often would you talk?
every day.
And again, you are a little bit quiet.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. When directing your attention to October 9th and 10th and that time frame, had you talked to Stephanie the day before she went missing?
Yes.
And do you remember if and when, well, not if, but when the last time you talked to her was?
I talked to her at 12:38 on October 10th.
Was that AM or PM?
And
And after that, did you have any further contact with her that day, October 10th?
no.
At some point in time, did you become aware that she wasn't answering her phone, things of that nature?
Yes.
Had you in fact tried to call her?
Numerous times.
And what did you notice about her phone, if anything?
At first, before approximately 2 o'clock in the morning, her phone would ring and go to voicemail. After approximately 1:30 to 2 o'clock in the morning, it just went to voicemail. And then after that, it continued to go to voicemail.
And the jury has heard some testimony as to this already, so I don't want to be redundant, but was Stephanie a person that was pretty tied to her phone?
Yes.
Would she ever let it go dead or turn it off?
No.
Since you two talked, I believe you said every day, was it, how long was it? This is a bad question, let me try again. You said that you had talked to her at 12:38 a.m. and then around 2 a.m. is when it stopped ringing and was going right to voicemail, correct?
Yes.
From the last time that you tried, did you leave voicemails for her?
Yes.
And do you remember around when you left the first voicemail? If you know.
I don't know 100% sure, but approximately probably 1 o'clock in the morning.
And when, in regular Stephanie behaviors, if she missed a call from you, would she call you back or text you right away?
Yes.
And if you remember, what was the usual time frame that she would call you back or text you if she missed you?
Depending on the situation, within an hour.
And when, in this case, it sounds like you had talked to her in the early morning hours of October 10th. At some point in time, did you become worried about her?
Yes.
And was that because you weren't hearing back from her?
Yes.
Now, were you aware that Stephanie's boyfriend was in custody?
Yes.
And where was her apartment in 2010?
On Thomas Street?
Here in Wausau?
Yes.
And was she living with her boyfriend?
Yes.
Who did you know her to be dating at that time?
Eric Mahomes?
And did he go by the nickname E?
Yes.
And were you aware that Stephanie was making some not great choices about drugs at that point in her life?
Yes.
And Eric as well?
Yes.
At some point in time, You said you became worried. Did you end up going to her apartment on October 10th at some point in time?
Yes.
How did that come to pass?
After a phone conversation with Claudia that morning, I called Claudia because I was worried. It was approximately 10 o'clock in the morning, and I hadn't heard from her, and her phone was off. So we talked. She sent Clark over to check on her that morning. He did not make contact with her, so we went over there. Clark, I, and Elissa went over there approximately between 3:30 and 4:30 on Sunday, late afternoon, early evening.
Okay, I'm going to stop you and just kind of clarify a couple people. You said that you had a phone conversation with Claudia. That's Claudia Blake?
Yes,
And that's Stephanie's mom?
yes,
And when you said Clark, you meant Clark Prosser?
yes,
And that was a close friend of Claudia's?
yes,
Okay, and then when you said Alyssa, that's Alyssa Clendenning,
yes,
a good friend of Stephanie's,
yes,
and also yours?
yes,
You said between 3:30, 4:30 on Sunday, early evening hours was when you went to Stephanie's?
yes.
Okay. When you got there, was Clark driving?
Yes,
Okay, and so he came and picked you guys up?
yes.
Do you remember where he parked the car outside of Stephanie's?
The first time he parked it right outside her door?
Same side of the street?
Yes,
And when you say first time, you had said that he went there earlier in the day, but you weren't with him for that.
no,
But so you're saying the first time that you were there with him?
yes,
Okay, thank you. And did all of you get out of the car?
yes.
When you first arrived outside, was there anything that you noticed as strange right away outside the apartment?
The dog kennel was outside?
And just to give some foundation for that, did you know how long Stephanie and Eric had lived at that residence?
Just a couple months. I don't know for sure, but just a few months.
Had you been there a lot or a few times?
Yes, a lot.
So you would have known if things looked out of place or different than Stephanie's normal?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the dog kennel outside. Why did that strike you as strange?
Because when Stephanie, if and when Stephanie would leave, she would lock the dogs out before she left the house.
Was that so they wouldn't potty in the house or destroy things?
Yes.
And she had how many dogs?
2.
Chewy and Coco?
Yes.
Was Coco a young dog?
Yes.
Still working at potty training?
Yes.
Chewy has been described as a rat dog. Is that something that he was referred to as?
Yes.
When you, so the dog kennel, when you got there around 3:30 to 4:30, do you remember where in relation to the main door the kennel was, if you're facing the door?
It was to the right side of the door. If you're facing the door.
Right side of the door if you're facing?
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, you had been calling, nobody had heard from Stephanie, correct?
Correct.
How did Stephanie feel about those dogs?
They were like her kids.
Did they go with her a lot of times when she went places?
Yes.
So anything else outside that you think is important besides the dog?
No.
Do you remember if the downstairs, well, I guess I should say this, you'd been to Stephanie's apartment a number of times. What was the setup like as far as the doors? Stephanie lived on the second story, correct?
Correct.
So were there 2 doors to get up into her apartment?
Yes.
And then a hallway in between?
Yes.
The stairwell?
The stairwell.
Okay. But that main door on the bottom level, that was privately Stephanie and Eric's, and the top door also?
Yes.
Okay. So that bottom door, when you and Clark and Alyssa arrived, do you remember if that door was open or closed?
It was unlocked.
Did that seem strange to you if Stephanie was not there?
Yes.
Do you remember if that door had a lock and a deadbolt, or just a lock or something else?
I just remember it having a lock.
And then as, I'm assuming the three of you proceed up the stairwell?
Yes, the first time, yes.
Okay. And then who gets to the top door first? Do you remember the order that you three were in? If not, this is...
I believe I was first, and Elissa was behind me, and Clark was in the staircase.
And the top door to make entry into the apartment, do you remember if that door was locked or not?
It was locked, and then I was going to use a credit card to open the door, but when I put the credit card down to open the door popped open, so it was shut but not latched.
Okay, so it had the appearance of being locked, but it just wasn't pulled tight. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. So did all three of you go inside the apartment?
Yes.
Did you notice anything specific about the mail? Did you see any mail anywhere when you went in the first time?
It was on the top, I believe it was on the top landing, on the floor.
Did you pick up the mail, if you remember?
I don't believe so, but I don't recall.
So now we're inside the apartment, and there's been some discussion of the layout. Where did you go first in the apartment?
I believe initially I walked into the kitchen.
And on your way to the kitchen, did you notice anything out of the ordinary?
Not on my way into the kitchen. In the kitchen, yes.
Okay, let's talk about the kitchen. What, if anything, did you notice that was out of the ordinary?
No food or water for the dogs. Dried dog pee on the floor.
Okay. Were you the first one into the kitchen, or do you know if somebody else had been in there before you?
Into the kitchen, yes, I was the first one.
Do you remember if the dog bowls were on the floor or in the sink or somewhere else?
They were on the floor.
But there was no food or water for them?
No.
And being, as Stephanie said, or you said Stephanie's dogs were like her kids, was that strange?
Very strange.
And you said there was dog pee on the floor?
Yes.
And again, being as close as Stephanie was to those dogs, that was out of the ordinary?
Yes.
And you had said that if Stephanie ever left, she would crate the dogs, correct?
Correct.
And were they out running around?
Yes.
Did you know her dogs well? I know that seems like a strange question. But
Yes.
And did they seem different than normal?
Yes. They seemed very, like something was wrong. There was skittish, maybe.
Were they usually pretty affectionate?
Yes.
And on that day, were they not as affectionate? If you know.
They were very needy.
Okay. When, after the kitchen, where did you go next?
I was called into the bedroom.
Do you remember who called you?
Clark.
Did you just say, Shelly, you should come in here kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay. And you went?
Yes.
And that was the bedroom that, to your understanding, Stephanie shared with Eric?
Yes.
What did you see when you went into the bedroom?
I noticed there were no sheets or pillows or blankets on the bed. I also noticed a bottle of Don Julio tipped over on her mattress.
And do you remember if that bottle of Don Julio that was tipped over, was the cap off or on?
It was off.
Okay. Was the bottle empty, or was there still alcohol in it, if you know?
I believe there was a little bit of alcohol left, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. And Was it abnormal for Stephanie's bed to not have anything on it?
Yes.
When you had been there in the past, did she always have sheets, comforter, blanket on the bed?
Always.
And did she have a favorite blanket that was always there?
She had a horse blanket.
Was there anything specific about, so I guess I should ask this first, the mattress, was it completely stripped down, there was nothing on it?
Just that bottle, Don Julio.
Okay. Did you notice anything about the mattress that seemed out of the ordinary to you?
There was a stain in the middle of the bed.
Based on your life experience, were you able to, did you have any idea of what it was on the bed?
I knew it wasn't alcohol
How did you know that?
because of the color and the smell.
Let's talk about the smell. What, if anything, did you smell?
Bleach.
Was it a really strong smell of bleach or something else?
It was pretty strong
Did you smell it anywhere else in the apartment or just in the bedroom?
in the bedroom.
Did you notice any stains anywhere else in the bedroom, on the floor, on the walls, anywhere else?
Yes.
Where else did you see stains?
On the side of the mattress, on the carpet, on the wall, on the door.
And based on your common life experience, were you able to, did you have a feeling as to what those stains were?
Yes.
What did you think they were?
Blood.
You mentioned the wall and the floor and the carpet. Was the carpet in Stephanie's room dark?
Yes.
And on the walls, were the walls pretty light?
They were white.
So the color of the stains on the walls?
Were red.
And the color on the mattress, I think you kind of explained it, but what color was that?
Like a light pink. Lighter pink.
And again, just based on your life experience, with the color and the smell on the mattress, what did it look like to you? And what did it feel like to you?
Blood.
And with the smell, did it feel like there was also something else on there?
Yes.
And what was that?
Bleach.
Did you look around in Stephanie's, did she have kind of a laundry area where she kept laundry supplies?
Yes.
And she didn't have a laundry facility in her apartment, did she?
No.
But were there things that you knew her to always keep as far as cleaning supplies in the apartment?
Yes.
And what, if any, supplies did you notice were missing?
Bleach.
Were there any laundry baskets or anything that you knew to usually be there that you didn't see there?
Yes.
What was that?
She had 3 tall laundry baskets. There was a, I believe it was a green laundry basket missing.
I'm sorry, I was turning the page. The green laundry basket were?
Missing.
Okay. What color were the other two, if you remember?
White.
And you said they were tall laundry baskets. Were they a little different than like the standard ones that you see?
Yes.
After the bedroom, well, I should say this, was there anything else in the bedroom that you noticed that is important for today? That I didn't ask you?
There were a few other things missing, yes.
Oh, what other things did you notice?
I didn't see her keys, her phones. At the time, I didn't see one of her favorite slippers.
But that slipper was later found, right?
Correct.
And would it be, if she wasn't there, if she was just out somewhere, would she have had her phones and her keys with her probably?
Yes.
And when you say phones, did she have more than one?
Yes.
Was one of those phones a phone that Eric used?
Yes.
And because he was in jail, she kind of had it?
Yes.
Were you familiar with the phone that Eric used being broken at all?
Yes.
What was wrong with it?
The screen was smashed?
Did you see who was calling?
No.
Where did you go after the bedroom?
We decided to go look at different laundromats and different friends of hers to try to find her. We left a note on the table for her.
Did you leave that note or did somebody else?
Elissa left it.
Do you remember what it said?
I don't remember exactly the wording, but it was if you come home and see this, please give us a call immediately.
At some point in time, you looked at the bathroom. Was that before you left to look for her in the laundromat, or was that after?
I was on my way to the bedroom.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about the bathroom. Was there anything that you noticed in the bathroom on your way to the bedroom that seemed different?
The toilet seat was up. There was a mop bucket in the bathroom by the corner of the door. There was also a red towel on the floor that was soaking wet.
The number of times that you've been to Stephanie and Eric's apartment, and then we talked about the fact that Eric had been gone. Do you know how long he had been gone?
He left Thursday night.
That would have been October 7th, I believe.
Yes.
And had you seen Stephanie, or had you been to her apartment since you left?
No.
But Stephanie was living there alone, correct?
At that time, yes.
You said there was a mop bucket in the corner. Was that not a normal place that Stephanie would store that?
No.
Where would she usually keep it?
In the closet that she kept all her cleaning stuff and laundry detergent and stuff in.
And was there cleaning solution still in the bucket? And the mop, was the mop with the bucket, you said?
Yes, it was
Okay, and
inside.
was there cleaning solution in the bucket?
There was still liquid in it, yes. I'm not sure what was in it, but there was.
And you didn't find it?
No.
Why was it that you decided to try laundromat?
Because I noticed her laundry basket was missing and also her bedding was missing.
So you were hoping maybe she had just gone to do laundry?
Yes.
I forgot to ask you, the towel that was on the floor, I believe you said it was red. Could you tell by looking at it if it was red, like a red towel, or was it stained red?
It was a red towel.
And how long did you try looking around for Stephanie? If you know?
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm guessing about an hour, hour and a half.
And at some point in time, did you and Alyssa and Clark head back to Stephanie's apartment?
Yes.
And do you know about what time that was?
I don't know.
Was it light or dark out when you finally got back to it, if you know?
It was still, at that time, it was still late.
And what did you guys do once you were back at the apartment?
We parked on the opposite side of the road, down the road a little ways,
Why did you decide to do that?
just to watch the apartment.
How did you check and see if anyone came in or left?
Yes.
Did anyone?
No.
At some point in time, was it decided that you would call the police and let them know that something was up?
After the second time going into the apartment, after looking around again, we decided to call Claudia.
And we'll get to that in a second. I wanted to kind of figure out exactly when the call came in. So when you parked on the opposite side, you said you watched the apartment for a while. Do you know how long you sat and watched the apartment?
No.
And at some point after you watched the apartment for a while, you guys went back in?
Yes.
And did all three of you go that time?
No.
Who went with you?
Elissa and I.
And what did you guys Where did you look, and did you see anything additional or anything like that on the second time through the apartment?
I noticed more blood.
Where did you notice blood? If you remember.
Underneath some dirty laundry.
Was that in her bedroom?
Yes.
Did you notice any paper goods of any kind that had been blood on it?
Yes.
And what did you see?
A lottery ticket.
Was there anything that you remember that you or Shelly, or if you observed Clark, touching within the apartment or moving stuff? I mean, I know you said that Elizabeth left a note. Was there anything that you guys moved around to look or anything like that?
The bottle of Don Julio got moved off the bed, but I believe that was the first time we were there, and was put back later.
Did you try to remove the lottery ticket at all?
No.
And I think this was earlier, and I just forgot to ask you about it. You said the dogs were acting a little funny. Did you notice anything about their fur at the time? Or one of them's fur?
Yes.
What did you notice?
Chewy's fur had something in it. I don't know what, but it wasn't his normal. He really needed a bath. He was really dirty.
And was that not normal for Stephanie's dogs?
No.
That wasn't normal.
Not for them to be dirty, no.
We talked a little bit earlier about that you knew that Eric and Stephanie were involved in some sale of drugs, right?
Yes.
And did you know where Eric and Stephanie kept their drugs?
Yes.
Where were they kept, as far as you knew?
In a safe.
And was it a big safe, a small safe? If you know.
Yep. A smaller safe that you could lift up.
And do you know where the safe was normally kept?
On the dresser, on the bed, or on the floor next to the bed.
Somewhere where it was more easily accessible?
Yes.
And because you knew about this safe, did you try to find it when you were in there to try to help Stephanie out?
Yes.
And were you able to locate it when you were looking?
No.
And what kind of drugs were you aware of that Eric was selling?
Crack.
And Stephanie did sometimes participate in that as well, right?
Yes.
And I know these questions are difficult, and I apologize. Had you become aware that Stephanie had gotten more drugs recently?
Yes.
And did you know how much or what the worth was at all, or did you just know that she had gotten drugs?
I just knew she got more.
And was that before Eric had been taken into custody or after?
Before.
Do you know if she was planning on preparing those drugs for sale? Or was she planning on waiting? If you don't know, that's okay.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the answer.
I don't know.
So after the two of you and Shelly, I'm sorry, you and Alyssa went into the apartment the second time, you said after that you decided to call Claudia?
Yes.
And then it was determined that the police would be called, and she called the police, as far as you know, right?
Yes.
Did you and Alyssa go back outside?
Yes.
And did you take the dogs with you?
Yes.
Did you wait for the police to arrive?
Yes.
And that all took place on October 10th of 2010?
Yes.
And you didn't find out where your friend was until 2014?
Correct.
I'm really sorry for your loss. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Willman?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Ms. Resch.
Good morning.
The first thing I want to talk to you about is your phone communication with Ms. Lowe on October 9, Saturday night, into the early morning hours of October 10, okay?
Mhm.
Was your phone number back in October of 2010? Area code 715-298-0682?
I believe so, yes.
If I were to tell you that Ms. Lowe's phone records indicate that the first time there was contact between her phone and your phone, incidentally, is that 298-0682, is that a cell phone or a landline at home?
Landline?
Okay. And is it through a landline that you would talk to Ms. Lowe that morning and night, that night and morning?
Yes.
Okay. So if I were to tell you that the first contact between her phone and your landline would have been at, in the early morning hours of October 10 at 12:29 a.m. Does that sound right?
Yes.
All right. Now, we're into Sunday, October 10th then, so you didn't have any contact with her by phone on the 9th on Saturday, correct?
I had contact with her in the morning.
In the morning of the 9th, Saturday morning.
Yes.
All right. But nothing between the morning of the 9th until the early morning hours of the 10th, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then if I were to tell you the next, according to Ms. Lowe's phone records, contacts between her phone and your landline is when your landline calls her on Sunday morning, October 10th, at 12:30 a.m., so about a minute after she called you. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Okay. And her phone records indicate there was about a 3-second phone call, so you remember there's no discussion there, right?
Correct.
If I were to tell you that Ms. Lowe's phone records then indicate there is the third communication between the phones on this early morning of Sunday, October 10, comes from your landline to her line also at 12:30 a.m. for about another 4 seconds. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. There's no dialogue there, is there?
No.
Okay. So that's not, do you remember if those two calls of 3 and 4 second duration at 12:30 a.m. from your landline to her, those didn't go right to voicemail, right?
I don't recall.
Okay. If I were to tell you that Ms. Lowe's phone records then indicate that there are starting at 12:31 a.m., almost 12:32, a call initiated from your landline to her that lasts 24 seconds. Sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay. And then a minute later, there's another telephone call from your landline to her telephone that lasts 23 seconds. Sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay. And then finally at from this series of calls around 12:30, yet another one from your landline to her at 12:32 a.m. that lasts 3 seconds. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Was it during, then we have more. At 12:32, we have another call from you to her landline that lasts 3 seconds. Okay?
Yes.
And then we have one more at 12:33 and 13 seconds from your landline to her that lasts 3 seconds. Okay?
Yes.
So we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 calls as between the two of you, right around 12:30. That sound familiar?
Yes.
And actually, what happened during that period of, no, not yet. Then we've got some more calls at 12:34, 12:36, and 12:37 of various duration. You to Miss Lowe, still in the 12, a little bit after 12:30 category. Remember that?
Yes.
So those series of calls, I don't know how much we're up to, 7, 8, or 9, is really what happened there is you were talking to her, and then the phone call abruptly ended. You remember that?
Yes.
And then you kept trying to reach back to her, trying to find out why that call abruptly ended. Correct? Isn't that really what was going on during those series of calls?
I know what happened.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is what happened, you were talking to her during those series of phone calls, one particular call somewhere in the middle there abruptly ended.
Judge, this is. Can I first? Can you first?
Okay.
Let's see if we can get this right here. We've got to make this simple if we can. Did she eventually hang up on you during those series of phone calls?
Yes.
Right. That's all I'm trying to get at. And then when she hung up with you, you tried to find out why she hung up on me and kept calling back a few times, right?
Yes.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
Okay. And it looks like, according to her phone records, your last effort to find out why she hung up on you was at 12:37 and 58 seconds. Is that right?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. It looks like the last phone call you made to her in the early morning hours of October 10 to find out why she hung up on you was at 12:37 and 53 seconds.
That is incorrect.
Okay? When was the last phone call that you made to her that morning to find out why she hung up on you?
I don't know the exact time, but I know it was after 12:37 and 58 seconds.
Okay. Was it at 12:45? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. But, okay, how about this? Is when you called her to find out why she hung up from you, would you have called from the 715-298-0682 number?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. If I were to tell you, ma'am, that Stephanie Lowe's phone records indicate that between 12:37:58 a.m. and the next morning at 10:28 in the morning, October 10, well, same morning, that there were no efforts to call Miss Lowe by you from 12:38 to 10:30 a.m., that would be incorrect, correct?
I believe so, but I'm not 100% sure.
So it may be that the last time you made an effort to contact Miss Lowe, it may be 12:38 a.m. until 10:30 or 10 o'clock the next morning, correct?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about this apartment that I understand you were fairly familiar with based upon being over there a lot, right?
Yes.
Okay. Remember the dining room table where
Yes.
Alyssa, you have to let me finish this one.
John, finish it.
I intend to now.
Okay.
The dining room table where Miss Clendenning left the note. That's a dining room table in the dining room area just adjacent to the kitchen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Had 3 chairs with it, right?
Correct.
Was there a carpet underneath it? Or a rug of any sort?
Yes.
When you went back into the apartment with Mr. Prosser and Miss Clendenning on Sunday, October 10, at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and on that second trip, was that carpet there?
Yes.
When you would go and eventually pack up Miss Lowe's belongings in the residence, you remember that time period, right?
Yes.
Did you pack up that carpet and rug?
I
What was
did
under
not
the
know.
dining room table?
I did not know.
Do you have personal knowledge whether anyone else did?
No, I don't.
But you're confident it was there when you entered at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the evening? It
On
was-
the 10th?
Yes, it was under the dining room table.
I believe so, yes.
Do you recall that Miss Lowe kept on that dining room table a receptacle with coins in it?
I don't believe she did, no. I'm not 100% sure.
There was in the apartment like a dog gate to keep the dogs in certain areas or keep them out of certain areas, correct? Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. When you went into the apartment on, well, strike that. Where would that normally be in place in the apartment prior to the 10th of October, if you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. I mean, do you remember it being used to put the dogs or in a certain area or keep the dogs out of a certain area?
She is the kennel.
Okay. When you entered the apartment on the 10th, you don't remember where that dog gate was? Didn't take note of that?
No.
Okay. When you enter the apartment, do you recall that the door opens? Does the door open in? I'm talking about the top apartment door, not the street level one. Are you with me?
Yes.
Does that door open inside?
Yes.
Was there a mirror located behind that door hanging on the wall?
Yes.
Typically? I'm sorry?
Yes.
When you entered the apartment on the 10th in the late afternoon, do you notice that that mirror was no longer hanging?
I don't remember.
When you entered the apartment on the 10th, do you remember whether any of the windows were open or closed?
The windows themselves were closed.
Even in the bedroom, they were closed as well? You recollect that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recollect, Miss Resch, whether did she have window treatment? She and Eric, Miss Lowe and Eric Mahomes have window treatments like blinds on
Yes.
each window? Do you remember whether those were up or down when you went in?
They were up.
Do you particularly remember that they were up in the bedroom? If you remember.
I don't remember.
Okay. But you kind of have a recollection of them being up elsewhere, right?
Yes.
When you went in, lights on or off if you know? Or remember, I should say.
They were off.
Yeah, because didn't you guys, you and Miss Clendenning and Mr. Prosser eventually turn them on?
Yes.
Okay. Now, directly opposite Eric Mahomes and Stephanie Lowe's bedroom was a spare bedroom, right?
Yes.
For kids or somebody just doing something in their private, right?
Yes.
Was that door to that spare bedroom on the times you were over there typically closed?
No.
Was typically open?
Yes.
When you went in on the 10th, if you remember at 4:30, was the spare bedroom door open or closed?
Open.
Are there windows to that spare bedroom?
Yes.
And they lead out, do they not, onto like a ledge on the south portion of the premises, of the apartment complex, right?
Yes.
There was within the bathroom, as I just heard from your testimony, a wet, I think you said, soaked red towel on the floor, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you touch it?
With my foot.
And it was soaked, right? You're saying?
It was wet. Yes.
Did it smell like the cleaning solution that you smelled from the mattress?
I didn't smell it.
Okay. And when you're touching it with your foot to determine that you said soaking wet. You just mean it being wet now, right?
I mean, being the water wasn't running out, but it was wet. Yes.
And that was at approximately what? 5 o'clock, 4:30.
Yes.
And right around the corner from the bathroom in the hallway, as you enter the apartment, there's this closet that you were talking about where your friend kept cleaning solution?
In the dining room.
Is it in the dining room?
Yes.
Okay. And that's where she would typically keep, Miss Lowe would keep that bucket
Yes.
and that mop that was in the bucket.
Yes.
And she'd keep her bleach.
Yes.
And you took notice on Sunday, October 10th, that the bleach she typically keeps was missing.
Yes.
Did you reveal that fact about the missing bleach in Miss Lowe's apartment to anybody associated with law enforcement or the state?
Yes.
When did you first disclose that? I'm curious.
Within the first 24 hours of her being missing.
Did you tell that to a uniformed police officer? Or a detective? Or, do you remember?
No, I don't. I believe it was a uniform police officer.
One of those guys who was on the scene, right?
Yes.
This toilet seat being up, I'm sorry if I'm making you repeat it. I maybe was distracted. That's something that your best friend typically wouldn't do. She'd keep it down, right?
Yes.
And just so I'm clear, what you noticed missing was the green fleece blanket with the depiction of the horse, right?
Yes.
The laundry basket, right?
Yes.
Her keychain,
Yes.
and that was kind of unique. It was a Tweety Bird metal keychain, right?
Yes.
And all of her bedding, in addition to the blanket that she kept on the bed, right?
Yes.
And didn't she typically keep kind of thicker 2 to 4 pillows on her bed?
Yes.
Were all 4 of those missing as well?
Yes.
And also missing was one of her gold Old Navy flip-flops, right?
Yes.
you became first acquainted. I don't have much more, if you can just stick with me, okay? You became acquainted with Miss Lowe since December 2009, as I recall, roughly, right?
Yes.
And you became close to her largely through your relationship with her brother, right?
Yes.
Talked to her on the average 2 or 3 times a day, right?
Yes.
And you were in her life when she met Eric Mahomes.
Yes.
And when she met Eric Mahomes, you believe her life as you knew it changed.
Yes.
She lost about 25 pounds during the course of the relationship.
Objection, relevance?
Sustained.
Okay. Did it seem to you, after she met Eric Mahomes, that Miss Lowe was substantially involved in, as you told Detective Wogernsey, more drama?
Again, objection, relevance?
I just think the relevance is self-evident.
Sustained.
Okay. Was she loyal to Mr. Mahomes?
Again, objection, relevance?
Sustained.
Was she a fighter and not scared of anybody?
Objection, relevance?
Okay. You have a mind to sustain that objection?
No. Overruled.
Okay. Was she tough and not scared of anybody?
No, she wasn't scared of anybody.
Did she report to you that before October 10th, 2010, that she had a problem, she had some type of injury to her neck area?
Yes.
Such that she had neck discomfort.
Yes.
And that was as a result of some type of contact to her neck area.
Yes.
When Eric Mahomes and Stephanie Lowe would sell crack cocaine, they did it out of their apartment on Thomas Street, correct?
Sometimes.
Home that they used exclusively for drug transactions?
Yes.
And you don't recall meeting with Detective Jennifer Holt. She's the woman seated right there between State's Counsel. Meeting with her on or about August 28, 2012, and indicating as follows. Resch stated she believed this telephone number that they found to possibly be the, quote, dope phone, or a phone used exclusively for drug customers.
Money phone.
Pardon me?
Money phone.
So you didn't call it a dope phone?
I don't believe so.
It was instead a money phone, right?
Yes.
Meaning a phone that would allow Mr. Mahomes and Miss Lowe to earn money from dope sales. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
This safe in which the crack cocaine was kept, you indicated it was typically kept kind of out in the open in the bedroom, on the floor, by the bed, on a dresser. Is that what you were indicating?
Yes.
So you never knew it to be hidden or placed up on the top shelf of any closet?
No.
Did you believe that your best friend was involved in a dangerous business? In
Yes.
selling crack cocaine?
Yes.
So dangerous that you didn't really even want to talk about it with Detective Wogernsey because you said, quote, "I have children," quit quote, correct? That's
Yeah.
how dangerous you believe the profession to be.
Yes.
Your best friend's birthday was at the end of September before she disappeared, right?
Yes.
And you remember being over at her apartment on Thomas Street, helping her, or doing, for whatever purpose, washing some dishes on her birthday?
Yes.
And you recall meeting with Detective Holtz, who had asked you to compare some cutlery with any knives that you recollected you saw at Miss Lowe's residence. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you remember telling Detective Jennifer Holtz on August 30th, 2012, that the knife she was showing you looked familiar to the type of knife that you were cleaning at Stephanie Lowe's apartment on her birthday on September 29, 2010? Did it look this similar type of knife?
Yes.
When you entered the apartment to see what was going on with Miss Lowe, you indicated that one of the things you want to do is try and find the safe, right?
Yes.
Wow.
So she wouldn't get in any trouble.
Was also part of your thinking that whoever did something to her might have been looking for that safe? And that, therefore, if it was missing, would have given you a clue to what happened to her?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. You were interested, it was poorly phrased. You were interested in the safe when you went in on October 10th to see what's going on, right?
Yes.
You said one reason is you didn't want anybody to find crack cocaine so she'd get in trouble, right?
Yes.
Any other reason why you were interested in that safe, whether it had anything to do with why she may be not around?
No.
Okay, that's all I'm asking, and I have nothing further. You, Rick?
Just a couple of follow-up questions. Some of the statements that you made to law enforcement closer in time to when Stephanie disappeared, as far as the phone calls, is your memory probably not as good now as it was then?
No, it's not.
And you're not trying to mislead anyone with the phone calls. If that's what the records say, that's what they say, right?
Absolutely not.
How far is was your residence at the time from Stephanie's, if you remember?
Driving or
If you know miles or if you know time or anything you can remember.
10 minutes driving, maybe.
Sorry, what's that?
10 minutes driving, maybe, over by the new Y, so to Thomas, so however long that takes.
Attorney Womack asked you about a rug under a table. No detectives ever asked you about a rug closer in time, did they?
No.
And so you're relying on your recollection from 6.5 years ago as to whether or not a rug was there?
Correct.
Is it safe to say there's some uncertainty?
Absolutely.
Same thing with the windows open or closed. Did anybody ask you about the windows back then?
No, but I do remember that the windows in the bedroom were closed. The shades, not the windows.
The shades were closed.
Yes.
If a detective wrote down that you had called a phone that was used for some drug transactions, a dope phone, is that something you could have said?
Yes.
And again, you're not trying to mislead anybody here today.
No.
And you've admitted that Stephanie and Eric were in the business of drug sales, right?
Yes.
The shades that were in the bedroom, would you be able to see light through those, or were those like blackout shades? Do you know?
They were not blackout shades, no. You'd be able to see light. If the lights were on, you'd be able to see through. You'd be able to see light. You wouldn't be able to see people in the window, obviously, if the shades were down. But
So from the outside, even with the shades down, you could see light coming through if the lights were on.
yes,
The phone that you were referring to when you were talking to the detective, the third phone, you knew that phone had actually been disconnected in July of 2010, right?
yes.
Okay. So they weren't using that phone recently, as far as you were aware.
Not that I was aware of.
And the knife that was shown to you by Detective Holtz to my left, that was a butcher knife, wasn't it? Like a big knife? Is that it?
Yes. Can I say it?
She
I'm sorry?
indicated she had more of an answer.
Oh, go ahead.
Not to that question, but when you asked me about the room, if I noticed more about the room, next to the bed was a bloody footprint.
There was a footprint on the carpet.
Yes.
And was that, you had indicated earlier that there was a blood stain on the floor on the carpet in the bedroom. Was it close to that stain?
Yes, next to it.
Okay. And the last thing that I want to ask you about, when Detective Holt showed you that butcher knife, you indicated it looked similar. You weren't sure if it was from the exact same set or anything like that, right?
No.
Was it a pretty common looking knife?
Yes.
I have no other questions.
Just to clarify, at one point in time, there was a dining room rug, though. That you do remember, right?
Yes.
The dope phone was disconnected October 10, 2010, correct?
I don't know when it was disconnected.
Oh. Okay. And is it your testimony that drug transactions were not conducted with the cell phone that you were communicating with Ms. Lohan? Did she use that for drug transactions or no?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Did she, Eric Mahomes had yet another phone where the screen was cracked, you couldn't see the number, right?
It wasn't, it was cracked as of recent, of October 10th, yes.
Was that used for drug transactions by Ms. Lowe?
I'm not sure.
Okay. You really don't know what she used, how she communicated with people to sell dope, right? You don't know.
No, I don't know.
Just so I understand the bedroom, when you went in, shades down, windows down, right?
Correct.
Okay. Let's talk about the footprint. Have you discussed that previously with law enforcement?
Yes.
When?
I don't know the exact date, but somewhere around December 10th, 2000, or October 10th, 2010.
Uniformed police officer or detective?
I believe it was a detective that was sent over.
Well, I got to ask you about the print. Where was it located within the bedroom again?
Next to the stain on the floor, on the carpet.
So in other words, it was a footprint within the blood stain?
No.
Oh, okay. So it was a footprint on the carpet separate from the blood, right?
Separate from the blood stain, yes.
All right. Now look, you see the carpet. Can you see the carpet in the room we're in right now? You look to your right. Right.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know carpet. Was there carpet in her bedroom kind of like this kind of texture or this kind of look?
Yes.
So when you say there was a footprint when you went in there at 4:30 or 5 o'clock on October 10th, it would be what? An indentation in carpet like this, or a footprint full of dirt, or what? Can you help me out? What made you think it was a footprint?
I can make out the footprint.
In an indentation in the carpet, or
A
some type
stain on the carpet.
Okay. But it was a non-blood stain.
No, it was a blood stain.
Oh, okay. It was a blood stain separate from the other staining, right?
Yes.
Okay. Was it a full footprint? I mean, you know, or the full volume of the shoe?
Of a barefoot.
Of a bare? Oh, it was a barefoot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you saw toes and the balls of the feet and a heel print there, right?
I saw toes, yes.
Anything else?
The side, a footprint. A footprint. If you stepped in ink and stepped on the piece of carpet, that's what you would make out.
A full footprint.
Not a full footprint. A footprint.
Like half the foot.
Correct.
Look, I mean, I know you're not any kind of forensic scientist, but did it look? It was pretty clear to you that's exactly what that was. Nothing other than a footprint, right?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
Any redirect?
Just one thing, I'm gonna use some photographs. Can we turn the screens in the, to number 3, please? I'm looking at 53, or 51, 53, and 54. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, and I'm going to ask if this is what you recognize the carpet to look like when you were in Stephanie's apartment. These are 51, 53, and 54. Could you just look at those and tell me if they're you can take your time, if they're an accurate depiction of what you saw that day? Just like the records reflect, she's nodded. Let me know when you're ready, because I'm going to look on the screen. This is Exhibit 51. And I know you can see the screen behind you. Is that the blood stain on the carpet that you were referring to earlier in testimony, and you said you saw a blood stain and then a separate footprint?
Yes.
Okay. If you could, I don't know if we have a laser pointer in here. I should have asked that, but
I don't know if it would work well with this, it sometimes doesn't. There was one
We could probably do this out. If you could kind of just describe where on the screen what you thought to be a footprint was, what were...
If you want to have her come down to Elmo, can she?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Show it on Elmo.
If that's okay with the court. Are you okay with that? Come on down.
You have pencil or something?
I asked you if the part that you were referring to earlier, you said looked like a footprint to you was in that picture, and if so, could you please point it out for the jury? And what part were you referring to when you said it looked like toes? And that's consistent with your memory from October 10th of 2010? Yes. Okay.
If the record, could we just establish
Yes.
the record which she pointed to?
Of course, let the record reflect that she has pointed to the far right-hand side of the photo on the Elmo, as it shows on the screen, towards the center of the picture.
And maybe we could reference the numbers on the ruler, that might.
Oh, that's a better idea, thank you.
In the record.
What numbers on the ruler that's in the picture are the closest to the area that you pointed to? So if you could look like, I don't mean to testify for you, just the ones that you think are closest to the area that you said looked like toes to you. There's some numbers on the ruler next to it. If you could say the numbers that in your side are closest to 22 and 23. Let the record reflect that numbers 22 and 23 are what the witness said. Okay. And actually, I think, and then there's one other exhibit as long as you're here. This is 54. Is that also the area of the listing that you were referring to earlier? That was yes? Yes. And then just, again, this is just a closer up picture. This is 54. Could you point to where on the picture that you said looked like toes? And that's the upper part of the picture on the right-hand side, closest to numbers 23 and 24. Yeah. Okay. I have no other questions for this witness, but if you could probably take the stand just to see if Attorney Willow has anything.
Okay, Mr. Willow, no questions?
None.
Okay.
I ask that she be allowed to be released from her subpoena.
Agreed. Okay, you're released from your subpoena. You're excused, thank you.
And Judge, I ask that the ones that I used, 51 and 54, be admitted into evidence.
Any objection?
None.
Received into evidence. The next witness going to be a 5-minute witness or a lengthier type witness?
It's going to be a little bit lengthier. It's Blake. So
Okay. This would be a good time to take a break then. We'll take a 15-minute break, come back. We're ready to go about 5 after. Okay, we'll be back in 15 minutes.